Multiple league sources have told the Tribune that had the Bears not hired Eberflus, the Colts were set to fire him, and he quite possibly might have had to seek a new position coach elsewhere in the league. Something Dan Dockich told us immediately after the Bears hired him, that he again confirmed that not only was Matt Eberflus not viewed as a hot commodity as a head coach, he was going to be fired as defensive coordinator by the Indianapolis Colts if he was not hired as a head coach by the Bears. I wanted to get to the Dan Wiederer article. This is not something that you can just skim through in 5 minutes. So when you have time, for all Bears fans, this is a must read. It's several pages long. I compare it a lot to when really Dan did a great job of painting a picture on Ryan Pace and what went into the Mitch Trubisky pick and how Fox was blindsided. I think he wrote the signature piece on all of that years and years ago. I still remember reading that for the first time going, wow, my jaw dropping. That this is sort of like that, where there's a lot of interesting stuff from unnamed league sources. And I'll read you some of the quotes. First of all here, this is very far into it that I do want to just start with, is he again puts it out there, because I know this has been a very controversial take amongst people in the media and fans and everybody. And again, I just think it shows you how cloudy the Bears make things. There's no definitive answer. But I've always heard what Dan put out there. And I said it on the air earlier this week. I know Cap thinks differently, but I have it from two different people who would know inside that building that Ryan Poles did, in fact, hire Matt Eberflus. That a lot of people always say, no. It happened too quickly, or it was an arranged marriage. They had known each other for many years through their agents. And whether the process was bad and they started interviewing coaches before he was there, and the Bill Polian connection may have pushed him there. I want to read you what Wiederer wrote here. And he wrote, inside league circles, many wondered why Poles had been so enamored with a candidate who hadn't generated much buzz and wasn't highly sought after. Sure, Eberflus had done a decent job coordinating the Indianapolis Colts defense and had been a head coaching candidate in several previous cycles. And in 2022, he was a finalist for the Jacksonville Jaguars job that eventually went to Doug Peterson. But the Bears' initial union with Eberflus elicited more shrugs around the NFL than condemnations. Did I say that right?
Commendations.
Yeah, thank you. Multiple league sources have told the Tribune that had the Bears not hired Eberflus, the Colts were set to fire him, and he quite possibly might have had to seek a new position coach elsewhere in the league. Something Dan Dockich told us immediately after the Bears hired him, that he again confirmed that not only was Matt Eberflus not viewed as a hot commodity as a head coach, he was going to be fired as defensive coordinator by the Indianapolis Colts if he was not hired as a head coach by the Bears. Instead, Poles handed him the Bears head coaching role, said one league source, when you talk about trying to find the next head guy at such an important time for your franchise, the Bears should have been asking themselves, who else really wants Eberflus? He was red flagged to fail immediately.
It's outrageous.
And he confirms in that article again that this was a Ryan Poles decision. This was not, again, I've told you that there was a search committee, and that search committee had George and Ted on there. There were a couple of other people, one who's not there anymore, one who is there now. And the search committee And then Bill Polian was the fifth. There were 5 people on the search committee. Polian wanted Caldwell because of his experience with the Colts and his knowledge with the Colts. The committee as a whole, Phillips and the committee, wanted Dan Quinn. Ryan Poles went with Matt Eberflus. That's the way it went, and I have it from 2 people inside that building involved in the search that's the way it went, and Dan Weeder confirms that. So let's start there. Because one thing that has been lost, Dion, for me is Ryan Poles' evaluation. He has done some good things.
Yes.
What I worry about with Ryan Poles is his ability to evaluate. Whether it's his ability to evaluate a head coach, whether it's Matt Eberflus to hire him, whether it's Matt Eberflus to keep him, whether it's Shane Waldron and all the different candidates. It's just like people are saying right now with the Bears head coaching candidates. The Bears will be attractive to some candidates.
Yes.
I'm not telling you that they won't be attractive. Just like the Bears had their pick of the litter at OC. They had every guy available. Liam Cohen.
Every guy.
Every
and
guy.
it seemed they talked to every guy.
It was Cliff Kingsbury. They picked wrong again.
Yes. Yes.
So whether it's his misevaluation on coaches, whether he misevaluates his offensive line, whether he misevaluates practices over the week or misevaluates his leadership and says we're connected, our leaders are great, our culture, he misevaluated. I don't believe what he has gotten right is the quarterback. It was a slam dunk number 1 overall pick.
Yes.
He got the trade right, and I'll never dock him for getting the trade right because I think you had to know when to make the trade.
Yes.
But I don't believe when it's like this guy and many other people, and you have to truly evaluate. Is it Darnell Wright, or is Darnell Wright in the 10th pick, a 4th-round pick, and Darnell Wright, or Jalen Carter? He chose Darnell Wright in a 4th-round pick over Jalen Carter. Whenever it comes to evaluations that require a deep research, Ryan Poles has failed. And it's why I worry that if you keep him, he will fail in picking the coach yet again, and he won't build a championship roster.
It is remarkable that over the last couple of weeks, the biggest questions we've all said is how can you sit with Thomas Brown and then sit with Shane Waldron and pick Shane Waldron, right? So it is telling that evaluation is there. One question that Peggy and I were asking last week is he too emotionally connected? Like, can he not remove his emotions enough to say, this is not working, like you, not in this role, you have to go? Like, is he unable to separate those things? Because as we saw in Hard Knocks, he obviously gets emotionally connected to his players, to his coaching staff. He is, and that's a wonderful trait to have, except when you're trying to win football games. You have to be able to evaluate without the emotion and remove it.
To that point, the 2 shrewdest moves Ryan Poles has made, Justin Fields and Roquan Smith. I am not going to let emotion get in the way of Roquan Smith being traded. I am not going to get emotion get in the way with, even though the locker room loves Justin Fields, we have to move on and we have to trade him. Why is that?
They weren't his guys.
There you go.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
But
because he doesn't, Matt Eberflus, his guy. Too emotional. Velus Jones, his guy. Too emotional. I'm not going to trade him. I believe it's going to work. Oh, Bates from Buffalo. I signed him to the offer sheet 2 years ago. I got to have him. I don't care that he's got an arthritic shoulder now. And I don't care that the Buffalo Bills were going to release him. I still am going to trade a 5th-round pick for him.
Right.
And you see what a bust he's been. He's too emotional, and his evaluation.
Nate Davis, like, what are we doing? They told you in Tennessee what kind of guy you were getting. You can't act surprised when Nate Davis turned out to be that guy that we knew that he was going to be. Like, he just gets too involved with those guys, and he was able to walk away from Roquan because it was not his guy. And same with Justin Fields.
Yep.
There was this emotional tie to it. I always thought that the Eberflus thing was not his call. I always thought that. but I guess it was.
And again, I don't blame you. I don't blame others. And who knows what if there is some still nuance even with that stuff. But this is why the Bears are the Bears.
Right.
That 2 years later, after they went through this, with really good investigative journalism and with there still are conspiracy theories that no one truly
Right.
that you believe one way, Cap believes one way, me, Weeder and I have heard other things. How can this be? Good organizations make it known. This is my choice. This is my coach.
Right.
But because the Bears' history is Phil Emery can't fire Lovie Smith, even though he's a newly hired general manager. Ryan Pace is a newly hired general manager. He can't hire his guy. He's got to be paired with John Fox. This is the Bears.
I know.
So even though they're going to be, what are they going to? Is there going to be a new general manager? Will Kevin Warren make Ryan Poles hire someone because he screwed up an evaluation and not truly get his guy, even though they're keeping him? I don't know what's going to happen next because all through these processes, they have mucked it up.
Oh, well, and that's the sad thing is we almost do know what's going to happen next. They're going to hire some coach that doesn't seem like the right candidate. We're all going to sit there and be like, well, in 3 years, we're going to be right back here. Nothing that they have done has given me an assurance that they know how to cast a wide net and really bring in the right person.
One guy I'm friends with who I've been on his podcast, I want to read you what he would be for. I want to read you a package of a Bears hiring, what his ideal situation would be. Okay. And I want to read you a bunch of what the sources told Dan Weeder are coming up. We've got that. We've got Florida or Ohio. If you want to weigh in on some of the Bears stuff, the Cubs did trade for Kyle Tucker. We started the first hour and a half on the show on that. We will continue to take your calls throughout the show on that. 312-332-3776 if you still want to weigh in. If you want to talk about the Weederer piece, if anything stood out to you, I will read you what some of these league sources told Dan Weederer in the Tribune. We will do that all coming up next.